Hello, YouTube. This is my. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. What's up, y'all? It's been a long time since I made some videos, so I'm kind of like going back through that right now. I'm going through comments that I've seen from like the last 6 years or longer, and I'm actually answering some of those questions that just now like decided to respond to. I don't know. Anyway, one of the comments was about workflow, so here I am today talking about workflow in Reason. Okay. I have been mixing for a long time, 20 years of mixing and some mastering in there. I've run a community studio, a few studios. I work with a number of local artists, but never really done anything big name. I hope to change that soon. So without further ado, this is how I approach vocal processing in Reason. So I mix it in two phases. This is my Reason rack over here. Here's my master bus and plugins and all kinds of stuff. I mix in two phases. Phase one, I call mixing for control, and phase two, I call mixing for effect. And basically, the difference between phase one and phase two is I might be using some of the same tools, but I'm using them for two different purposes. That's mixing for control versus mixing for effect. Control is EQing or compressing or changing a volume fader because you're trying to address something that is inconsistent, wrong, distracting, detracting about the signal itself. You're not trying to enhance it. You're not trying to make it sound rich or make it sound wide. That's not the intent of the control. The control is you're addressing a problem. In phase two, then once the signal is consistent and it is problem free, that's when we go to adding our effects. At that time, we might use the same compression or the same EQ to improve or enhance the overall tonal quality of the sound. I hope that sits. If it doesn't sit, rerun it and just listen to it again. Or I don't know if you rewind videos, but anyway, go back and just listen to it again. Two different things happen in two different phases using the same tools. The good thing about it is that when I mastered mixing for control, then most of my everyday studio recording and studio mixing for the general public, a lot of that could happen within 20 minutes. Within 20 minutes, I could have a solid sounding mix that was probably better than anything else that they were paying for anywhere else. Okay. And we never even really got down to the nitty gritty of it. So that's the benefit to that. So to give you a couple examples anyway, here's one right here. We got this track right here from an artist named Apollo, and we can see this particular artist, not Apollo, but this featured artist, he punched in 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 times, okay? However many times he punched in. And what I noticed when I was mixing these is that the signal was inconsistent across them. What I mean, all right, I'll tell you this. This volume was low. This volume was low. This volume was lower. And this one over here was loud. This right here was... This one, this two, I slid down and combined them. This right here was much louder, like much closer to the microphone, so it was a lot warmer. These three were thinner in frequency as well as thinner in volume. Okay, and that's the two problems that I wanted to address. I wanted to fix what was wrong with them. So I come over here to my channels. And I notice this one says Splack 5 shifted down. Okay. What this means is, even though this was warmer, he actually came in a higher pitch in his voice. And so there was it didn't sit well next to the three of these. These he came in a lower pitch, but a quieter volume. So I actually took this. And if you look over here, my screen's not wide enough. Look, I transposed it down a couple of semitones. anyway, I brought it down just a little bit so that it sounded more like these. And that's what I mean by control, right? Because what I want is even though this is 4 punches, first I want the signal to flow without me being interrupted by the changes in the presence or any artifacts or any issues about the recording. I shouldn't notice the volume going up and down. I shouldn't notice the pitch changing unless I meant for it, right? So now, once that was controlled, I took that 1, 2, 3, 4, and in a roundabout way, I ended up busting them together over here, and then I bust them together over here, right? And I remember what I did, but I'm not going to get into the details of why I did. Just look and see that in the end, this ended up coming down once I moved my effects over here. And over here, I did a little bit more sculpting because once the signal was consistent among these 4, the sibilance was still very sharp because of either the microphone, the way he was speaking into it, his technique, or whatever the case is, the sibilance was very harsh. So in the end, I came over, I sent this stuff to this main bus where I wanted to treat all 4 of these at the same time. All of these suffered with the same issues of sibilance. Rather than do 5 de-essers, I bust them together, and I did 1 de-esser here. And then I did some unique sculpting with the voice and the sibilance coming out of the de-esser here. And I did some other things here that I can walk into some other time if you ever want to hear this stuff. I also chose to, in the end, take the final result and make it a mono result and put it back into the signal chain, back into the track or the overall mix as a mono before I did things to make it a stereo signal. And if you have any questions on why I did that, you just let me know. But the gist of it is, it started out as a mono signal. During the process of cleaning it up and clarifying things, left and right channels got split so that I could manipulate them accordingly. And then I needed to turn them back into a mono signal just so that I, for myself, made sure that I was starting from the right place with it being treated as mono. So I didn't start wider than anything else and what have you. Okay. That's just a general expression there. Over here, he had 2 harmonies where he kind of rapped a bit softer. And this was meant to accent the area going into the hook. So I treated these differently. I didn't give these the same treatment that I gave these others. These didn't suffer from necessarily the same things that those suffered from. The volume and the presence on them were good for the area of the beat. In this area of the beat drops out. So it didn't need to be strong. And so I treated them differently. And once I treated them differently, let's see, that's the harmonies here. I bust those together, made some changes that applied to them both. And then I took those together, sent them over here for effects. So first I controlled them, then I applied another control, and then I sent them over here to get some effects. So over here is where they got dual chorus and reverb, so they became extra wet for the sake of a character that I wanted to introduce into the mix. So there's my phase 1 and phase 2 happening just so smoothly. First, I controlled them within their channels. I sent them together, added some more control, and then I sent them to get character, right? Once they got character, I sent them back over here to get the same coloring that his other vocals got. So that way, things didn't feel wildly different. You could tell things were moving in and out of the mix, but it never felt so wildly different, like it was too disruptive or too interrupting to the ears. So that's just a general overview of what it's like when I say I mix in 2 phases. Phase 1, first I control it, and phase 2, then I affect it. Now, I actually teach a class on mixing for control and mixing for confect, 2 different classes, and those classes are 2.5 or 3 hours long. But I just wanted to give you like a 10-minute overview of what my workflow is like, and here are the benefits in the last 30 seconds of this video. I don't ever get stuck in fader hell, where you're turning one up, turning it down. 2 hours later, you turn it back down, you turn it back up. 3 hours later, you turn it down. I don't get stuck in that loop until the point I get so angry that I get pissed off and I walk away and I don't touch the mix for a few days. That's not what happens to me. All right. I solved that problem a long time ago by using this one approach. It's a discipline. It's a methodology, and it still allows people to engineer their own way, just without getting in trouble. And here's the last benefit. Let's say I applied all these effects right here on this harmony track. And sometimes when you apply an effect, when you change the dryness and the wetness, it might affect the overall output, either not just the tonal quality, but the volume of it, right? I would rather the volume be affected here on the bus, knowing that I can turn the whole thing up or the whole thing down. I'd rather it happen there than to happen here, where I have already controlled and discerned that my levels and my volumes are good, right? If this track fails me, you know what I can do? If I get stuck in fader hill, I come over here and I can hit bypass. And when I hit bypass, I'm going to go back to the last time these vocals sounded good in the mix. And then from there, that's now my point of reference. That's my ground zero. That's my zero center point right then and there. Anything that sounds in conflict with this at this point, I can now readjust my mix around it, knowing that this sounded good when it was bypassed a long time ago. This becomes my failsafe, right? And that's why things get bust. Once I bust something, you won't see me touch these faders again. These three don't get touched again. This one might get touched, maybe this one, but these will stay the same. Same thing over here. These, I won't touch these again, but that one will get adjusted. When I turn this one up or down, it's the same thing as highlighting all three of these and turning them up or down. It's just better because I don't make any mistakes when I do it this way. Okay. When I want to apply the overall track effects, so any send effects that I have an ambiance set up here. I have a reverb. I have a sweeper. I have all kinds of stuff set up on my master bus, right? Instead of applying it reverb directly to the channel and ended up with a ton of modules that are out here doing processing, even though the computer can handle it. Why muddy up my thing like that? What happens if I want to change one? I need to change them all, or I can just ship it to my bus. I have my bus set to send to my reverbs. I have two different reverbs. They're both sending two different amounts. They're both panned differently to give a slightly different feel, almost a more organic reverb type of feel, by just kind of confusing the computer a little bit. Not confusing it, but just making it different, creating an offset. And so that happens once right here. And so I don't have to worry about this stuff. These ad libs over here didn't get bust because they all got treated differently, and they all leveled out just well enough. And some of them are meant to accent others, but they all don't stand out, and they're not all the same. They're all doing different parts. Like if we skip over here, we can see some of that stuff. And that's some of these right here. Just little parts. There's like a little skit going into the verse. So there's no need to bust those. All right. So anyway, so there's that. So you can see here that we have a structured and orderly workflow. He didn't have any of this stuff named. I named it all for him, just to make sure things flowed, and so we can see where things go in and out, get bust together, and then they get treated. And then over here in my master section, you can see all of my stuff that I got going to maximize the sound, control some of the bands, make sure everything falls in line and gets treated accordingly. Some master bus compression, some master bus limiting on the low end, and then I love this Kratos thing here, but that's neither here nor there. You can see that in the end we get an overall consistent and even sound. So yeah, peace.